This is the Brook Wingman FGC2 converter. Pretty much what this does, it lets you play a whole bunch of controllers and joysticks on the PS5 and the PC. So if you're somebody who likes the Xbox controller but would love to use this on the PS5, with this converter you can do that. And here's how the converter looks like. It's black and white. I have the first version here, and this thing was pretty laggy for me, so I was pretty disappointed. With this new one, is it any better? Let's get into it. On the first FGC here, I'm pretty sure that you can play this via wired or wireless. Now on this guy, you can only use it wired, and I'm pretty sure they did that to reduce the input lag. This thing is a lot faster than the old one. I was using the new Turtle Beach pivot controller on the PS5 using this, and to be honest with you, I didn't notice any input lag at all. Everything was smooth and responsive with it. And if you play a lot of fighting games, especially against other people, you just know when you drop a combo if it's your fault or if it's the lag. And more often than not, I would lose and drop a lot of combos because of this. But on this guy, it's just a whole lot smoother. Alright, let's get into the numbers. And by the way, these polling rate results are based on the latest firmware. So to do that, you just go to Brook's website, click on here to update the firmware, and just download it and follow the directions. This is the first gen DualSense controller. With the FGC2, for minimum input delay, I get 3.22 milliseconds. And then the maximum is 4.39. As you can see, it's only 1 millisecond variance. And the average input delay is 3.87. There's barely any jitter at all. And then the polling rate is 258. Now compare this with the first one. You can see that the first one, the variance between minimum and maximum input delay is huge. This is over 35 milliseconds of variance. And that's because the jitter is crazy high. You see that? Over 4 milliseconds of jitter versus not even 1 millisecond of jitter. And the average input delay is also higher on the first one versus the second one. And that's because the polling rate on the first one is under 200 Hz, whereas on the new one it's a lot faster. I've also tested it on the Edge and also the newly released Chroma versions of the DualSense, and the numbers are very similar across the board. And this is what makes the converter so good now, is because the jitter is almost non-existent. Compared to the old one here, this is just so inconsistent, you see that? And because of the jitter, it's gonna cost you a lot of variance in terms of minimum and maximum input delay. With the new controller on the FGC, crazy variance, you see that? I've also tested a whole bunch of Xbox controllers as well. Minimum input delay 4.34 milliseconds, maximum 8.81. Average input delay is just a little under 8 milliseconds. And jitter again is almost non-existent. Polling rate 128 Hz. Now when you compare this to the FGC, you can see that it's a lot faster. The jitter is so much better. Look at this variance. It's huge. Whereas on here, you only have a few milliseconds. And if you're using the official Microsoft controllers, it's essentially the same polling rate. The jitter is actually better, and the average input delay is the same. The regular Xbox Series controller and the Elite Series 2 controller, they're kind of the same, right? Same numbers. But then when I did the core, it's a lot slower. As you can see here, the core wired without a converter is 127 Hz, but with the converter, it's a little slower, but it's still a lot faster than the original FGC. You can see that the jitter is also higher on the core when using the converter versus the Elite Series 2 and the regular Xbox Series controller. So I'm not sure what's going on with the core controller here that doesn't make it play well with the converter. If you didn't already know, the Xbox controllers is capped at 125 Hz, so that's not very fast. What if we test an Xbox controller that's a lot faster? Here comes the Wolverine V3 Pro. And as you may know, this thing goes all the way up to 1000 Hz. At least on the PC. And with the FGC2 converter, the speed is halved, but at over 500 Hz. that's still pretty fast. And on the first converter, the FGC, as you can see here, it only achieves around 374 Hz. And in terms of jitter, the FGC2 here has the best jitter. It's even faster than not using a converter. And with the FGC1, it's pretty bad. All right, final thoughts. What did we learn here? Well, we learned that the new one is a lot faster and more consistent than the old one. Even though we lose the ability to play wirelessly, I think the trade-off is totally worth it. And if you're a serious fighting game player, you're not going to be playing wireless anyways, right? If you're like me and you like the Xbox controller, but you would love to use it on the PS5, get this thing. Literally, there's no performance hit when using the converter. It's kind of crazy to think about. If you have the old converter and you just wish that it performs better, well, go get this guy. It's totally worth it. Alright, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you found it to be helpful. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more, and take care now.